I don't remember Vince McMahon ever. I've never seen him watch television. I've never heard him listen to the radio. In the limousine, he's either talking about business or he's on the phone talking about business. He did have a fairly good knowledge of 70s television. I do remember that, and he can be contagious. Because when Too Cold Scorpio had to be Flash Funk for whatever reason, and he was good. I don't, the Dancing Girls, the Funkettes, and the whole 9 yards. The only time I ever liked the gimmick was the first night they had no music, so they let me play my Rick James tape I had in the car, and he came out to Love Gun. It actually had some oomph to it. But then they Barry Whited him out or whatever the fuck, and Rick James could actually, anyway. At one point, we were actually talking about ideas, and they called Isabel Sanford, who played Aunt Esther on Sanford and Son, to see if she would come in and make an appearance as Flash Funk's aunt on a pay-per-view. This is how far it would fucking go, and you would just follow down the rabbit hole with him when he'd have these ideas, and it would lead to something else. And you're when he pitches, well, could Aunt Esther be in goddamn Flash Funk's corner, right? Well, then you start thinking, because it's the boss, he's the most powerful man in wrestling. You're sitting there at his kitchen table. You're trying to think of ways for Aunt Esther to be used, and then you realize you go home and you're like, what the fuck? I was in on this. I mean, it was bizarre.
It's amazing, some of the stuff, and then even more recently, he supposedly was writing about a year ago, so he was writing Roman Reigns' promos, and he had him saying suffering succotash as well. I mean, so you get stuff like that.
Did somebody say that Vince McMahon told this guy to say suffering succotash?
That's the big rumor.
God damn. Well, I don't even know if the Vince McMahon I knew 20 years ago would have made his top babyface say suffering succotash.
Hey, he did want the aunt on Sanford and Son to be a part of it. So you never know with Vince.
But that was underneath. That was the middle of the card. You could let Aunt Esther on the middle of the card, but the top babyface suffering succotash and that, I don't know. Anyway, nevertheless.
Now, when you're in kind of a booking meeting with Vince, do you ever say I kind of go against the grain and like, hey, Vince, come on, this is an awful idea, or you kind of just roll the punches and kind of see what good you can make out of it?
Well, now, the thing is, you didn't want to just jump up and say, Vince, you fucking suck, your ideas are shits, and we ought to boil you in oil and sell the fat for soap, but when it was just you and Vince and Bruce, or you and Vince and the other guy, or JR was in the room or whatever, just a few of it, you could obviously, start mentioning what you thought was wrong with that idea. There was no problem with doing that. Sometimes you couldn't convince him, and Vince is a very, as I said, a very, charismatic individual. He can talk you into doing shit, and then you leave the premises and have no idea how he did it. But no, we were all allowed to, argue our case for why something made sense or something didn't make sense.